they can share with the whole group. And then I think we talked about having multiple rooms on a subject. We were thinking kind of one thing you might do is if the two topics were whales and aardvarks, then they could come to that group ready to share a resource that they found and some information. And maybe as the group, they're creating an annotated bibliography or something like that, that they could then go do something independent with, some project or something. So it would just kind of be like a place to discuss and get started and that kind of thing.
Tiffany, I have a question.
Yeah.
So the way I'm anticipating trying to use it is to join teachers' regular classroom Zoom meetings, and then they put us with some of my kids that I work with in a breakout room for a while or whatever, 10-minute check-in, possibly. Yeah. And so when we're in there, say we're done, I'm thinking of the management of it. Is there a way for me to send a signal or a message to the host saying, we're finished, or, you can pull us back in, or how should I manage that?
You can either request help from the teacher as a signal, like in advance, to say, this is our signal that we're done.
Right.
And then the teacher can broadcast a message back to you saying, it's okay to come back now, or something.
Right. Okay.
Or you can just tell your group, all right, everyone, leave the breakout room. We're going back now. And you all just show back up in the main room.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions regarding breakout rooms?
Just one comment on that, since Jody was asking about when you're in a small group, you can also type in the chat, and the chat goes to the entire class. So say your group comes up with something that they want to share with the classroom teacher or the whole group, you could still put something in the chat.
Yeah, or you could, if they have private chat set up, which they shouldn't, but if they had they could have private chat, I think, just where the participants can private chat with the host. So if that's set up, you could just send a chat message to the teacher. They'll say, hey, we're finished. Let us know when we can come back.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pass it to Misty.
All right. So now we're going to go to the tools that hopefully you've already had some experience with. And it's one that a lot of our, not necessarily our TKKs, but a lot of our middle upper kids have experience with, which is the Google tools, right? So Google Docs, Google Slides, and Google Drawings are really great tools for kids to work collaboratively, just because multiple kids can work on one document or one slide deck. So some features just to think about that you can just, maybe if your kids haven't used them, or even if they have, just reminding them about it. Because again, one of the things with collaboration we talked about, right, is being open to feedback. And so it's using those tools in Google in order to do that. So they have the commenting and the suggest edit features. So if kids are working on things, having someone else go through and leave them comments, to just leave, to leave comments for their peers on like things that they thought worked well, things that could improve. Or if they're working on a project together, like I know, like when I'm working with right now, when I'm planning with teachers or planning with my team, what we do is we have our Zoom open, and then we have a Google Doc as well. So we're talking. So just like when we were in the office, right? Like we would be talking, but we also have our doc where we're note-taking or planning or typing, creating something. So it could be that they have two tools going on at once they get, and what's nice is if they're already familiar with Google, right, they already know how to navigate that tool. So then when you have Zoom there, that's the new thing, right? We're not throwing two new tools at them. But having them practice navigating that. So maybe they work together to make one slide or one quick Google Doc and practice talking while they're also creating at the same time. Again, start small. Don't have them try to write a research paper the first time or a huge like slide deck presentation. But again, these are tools that they can use where multiple people can come in at once, which is really nice. Or it can be one person uses and someone else comes in and can give them feedback. So giving them comments. The other thing is you can also use them like as graphic organizers or thought idea catchers. So you could push out, like if you're using Classroom or Seesaw, you could push out a template Google Doc or a template slide. And then each group would have a copy of it, and they could work together to put ideas down. So maybe if they were working or they read a passage from a book or a passage from, Benchmark, and you wanted them to maybe share like, okay, what do you think is the main idea and a supporting detail or 3 supporting details? They could then use that note catcher together to think about what would be our main idea and what would be our supporting details underneath that. But you could have multiple kids working together on that. There's also hyperdocs that exist, and we, again, in our resources, we're going to share that to you. So hyperdocs are basically interactive lessons that are housed within a Google slide deck or a Google Doc, and it'll have links to different resources and then links to or directions on how to create you're basically showing what you know and what you've learned. And so that's another way you could have kids actually work collaboratively on one of those versus pushing one out to each kid. And then another fun activity that that exists is the add and pass storytelling. So this is where you create a slide deck. And you would have one kid started off where they might start a story on their slide deck. And so maybe they could create a picture or they could find one online, right? And they could maybe create like the very intro to the story. Then it goes to the next kid. So then it gets shared again, right? So like however you want to do the order, that kid would then add on the next slide, the next piece of the story, and it keeps passing on until everyone in the group has had a chance to complete a little story. And then also you can do interactive journals. So if they're doing a project like in social studies, they could have an interactive journal that their whole group is contributing to, or maybe in science, if they're doing some observation work, that would be a great way for them to start to add to that together. Again, a lot of norms have to be set in place, especially with shared docs, shared slide decks. And so one of the most important things is to know how to look at the revision history. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that because this is a huge tool for you as a teacher. So when you're looking at like a Google slide deck, and this is the same on all the Google tools. So Google slide deck, Google Doc, Google Drawing. So this is our innovation newsletter that went out a while ago. You can always check the revision history and you can see what different people have contributed at different times. So this is a great way to see who's doing what. So when you go to File, you're going to go down to Version History. And then you can name a current version. Don't worry about that. You're going to want to go to See Current Version, or See Version History, sorry. So File, Version History, See Version History. And you're going to get a little pop-up that goes over here. So you're going to see we have all these different date stamps and times, and these pop up as like, so Google, when it does those auto saves, it's saving a version of your finished document. And so it actually has these all saved, and you can actually go back to all of them, which is really cool. So like say I want to go back to like March 12th. You can see, right, it looks totally different. You can go back to our old version. But then what's really cool is, do you see, if you look at our names, you can see that we have different colors, right? So Tiffany's got teal, I've got purple, Tyler's got orange. And I can start to see, we'll see if it shows up on this.
It's probably the brainstorm slide.
It's probably the brainstorm page, you're right. I can start to see what different people have contributed. So the big teal, you can tell that is what Tiffany added in. So it's probably not the best one. Let's see if we can find one that's a little bit better. Go to March 17th. Nope, still not exciting. Go to March 18th. And we didn't really do anything until, oh, that's because we did all our planning here. So let's see. So like you can see, right, like this little orange in here, that's how we know that Tyler added that in on March 18th. So you can see there's just going to be little things that pop in that have different colors. And so what's really nice is this is just a way to be able to go in and see what different people have added to. It's a little harder on this because it's very like picture forward on ours. But this is a great way to go in and see who's added what. So another, I'll show you how this looks on a Google Doc. So like this is our, as we were planning at our webinar, this is the doc that we've been using as our TOSA, right, to plan out what we're going to be talking about each week. And so you can see how all these different things are highlighted, right? So anything that's orange is something that Tiffany typed in. Anything that is that teal is something I did. Anything that's purple is what Julie did. And so as a teacher, it's really nice to be able to go in and you can see what different students have contributed to different projects. So it's just a great tool to have. The other thing that's nice too is if someone did something they weren't supposed to, this happens a lot, right? Like second graders thinks they're funny when they type in the word poop. Gets a little more graphic as they get older into middle school, but they like to type in silly words or silly things and then they delete it and think it doesn't exist anymore. You can go back to a version history and you can actually see that, which is really nice. So it's also a way to kind of also just make sure that you're keeping tabs on your kids as they're working on collaborative docs. But again, Google tools are great. If you don't know, another tool that's really great to use, and if you haven't explored it, is Google Drawing. It's basically a blank canvas. So like all our flyers that we send out, our little pretty graphics, all of those are created with Google Drawing. And it's just a blank canvas, and you can create all kinds of different things with shapes and letters and text. And so we have like kind of like an instruction manual, both for Google Docs, for Google Drawing, and for Google Slides. And I'll be sharing those with you when I send out my email later today. But if that's something that you think you might want to have your kids create, like an infographic or like a little like visual picture, right? Or like